Right, so there's one thing that I'm trying to do in particular, and I'm looking at the pygame module, and I'm seeking some form of help, I guess, which is, let's zoom in. This piece here is kind of like the best I could do, right? And this is a very common pattern in pygame. So it's this event.key over here. A very common pattern. I've been looking it up left, right, and center. I'll get rid of the circle on there. But it's event.key. The reason why is because when I type in event dot, I get the methods and attributes. If I just get an event.dict and an event.type, right? It's those two things that are the attributes basically. Then there's some of these double underscore methods that are in there, and some double underscore attributes. But there is no event.key. And when I go and search the documents, and really, like, I've assigned event.key is an integer. So I've assigned it to this variable that I've created called key underscore press, just so that I don't get this event.key everywhere. And I don't like when it's white. When it's green, so when it's yellow. So for example, pygame dot event dot, you can see all of the different methods, and when we select one of them, it turns yellow instead of white. That means it's kind of like recognized. It was selected from the drop down list, right? But here there is no pygame dot event dot key, so there is no such thing. There's a .palm, .allowed, and so forth. There is a .get, and .get returns something back. Right? We can see what it returns back, kind of by hovering over it. It returns a list of type event. So I tried type hinting and asking questions and so forth I was using Gemini and I think ChatGPT as well. And I extensively trying to find different ways of exposing this, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. This is in Gemini here. So I asked one short paragraph of what event.key is. In Pygame, event.key is an attribute of a pygame.keyDown. So maybe pygame.keyDown.key, maybe that will do it. Let's have a little try of that. So I wonder if pygame.keyDown dot, and then key basically dot, and then will key be in here? No, it's not. So it's supposed to be an attribute of keyDown. It's not in here either. Like, I just can't expose it. These are all the exposable things, but they're all methods. So not exposed that way. Pygame dot, what if key is there? Key. Ooh. But that's not an event.key. I wonder if event is of type Pygame. No, it's not. So let's just go back to this definition in Pygame. So look, if anyone knows the answer to this, like, post it in the comments. It'd be interesting to see if there is literally an answer. I've like searched everywhere, and I'm going to show you that I've searched this really warrants, for the first time in like ages and ages, a Stack Overflow question, because yeah, it's so in Pygame, event.key is an attribute of pygame.keyDown or pygame.keyUp. So if you've got a key down event, then you've got one of these event keys that specifies which keyboard key was pressed. The attribute holds an integer value, so it's just an integer, but it's typically used in conjunction with the like this. Anyway, I've done a little search. Boom, over here. Where is it? Event.key, the grab thing here, right, which is, let's go back to here, which is, so the event.get, so right, there we go, event.get, and it gives you back this list, basically, a list of events, but the events are like just integers, basically. And there's not really any further documentation on it, but I went for search for examples, basically. So when you click on search for examples, it starts launching stuff. So let's go back. I did open it in here, and it gives you examples, basically. So I've opened it in a different tab, just so that it's visible. But all of the patterns are the same, which is basically here, 324, I wonder if there's more stuff in there. It looks for this event type. This one just looks for it does an event get. It looks for an event type. This one's just for quitting. I'm looking at ones that have other bits of code in them. But I'll go back to page 1 because I'll take the first example, should I? Here, right. It's got the key down. It's got the event.get and then it's got for event in events, right, which is the same pattern that I have. If event type equals pygame.key down, so I'm looking at this key down, and then it's got this pattern, exactly the same pattern here. So if I zoom in, you know, I've obviously copied one of these patterns back in the day when I wrote this 5 years ago. If event.key equals pygame.key down, but this key is not exposed, like it's not there, so I want to know, or I want the linter to be able to find it, and it can't find it, and I was like asking these questions. So again, I was asking the questions up in here. Where is it? You can define a type alias. It gives you these alternatives to attempt to do it, but it still didn't actually work, to be fair. Maybe I could this is the closest I got, right? It's key press of key code, so that's kind of like what I've done, is an event.key. But this key here is still not defined. So like, I've still like transposed it, but this key code is not necessary because we know it's an integer, so it didn't do anything. So like, I could have made this key code further above and then referenced it, but I still have the issue that I don't know what an event.key is. And maybe like Pygame users will never know what an event.key is, like can never expose it, but I like to be able just to pull things down. It's just, I find it good practice. So it really bothers me, this one, because I've been able to do it in everything. You know, I found a similar bug in, what was this? Matplotlib, where something wasn't shown, but I was able to get the type of what I needed to get. It was something like, well, when you do the chart and you do a plot and you've got the plot and then you've got like the series or something, and you can specify what each one is. So you can boil it down, but here I can't. And that's not, that bothers me, kind of. So maybe I can try and do something like, Maybe you can like import the actual event doc here. I wonder if I can do that. So here, no, I don't think I could. From pygame.event, because it's going to only export the key down. Pylance has detected annotations in your code. It recommends enabling type checking. Would you like to change this setting? Yes, I guess. Ooh, I don't know what I've just done there. Let's see. I guess that's all fine. Right. I'm going to say something like, if I go here, from import, and I want to import key, but I can't. I can import event. Maybe no. I'm going to do one thing, which is I'm going to ask the GPT, is there an import that can be used to import to type hints? And I want to type hints. I don't want to type in the event.key down, but if to type hint the key that is from that. Unfortunately, no, Pygame does not ship a dedicated type for event.key. Here's why. The pygame events.get returns pygame events.event objects. Those are dynamically populated dictionaries from the SDL depending on event.type attributes like key, pos. So I've had this reply, it may or may not exist. In the official Pygame type stubs, Pygame stubs on PyPy, event.key is typed just as int. There is no key, enum, or alias you can import. So what are your options? Use plain int, most accurate to Pygame internals. That's basically it. The official type of event.key is an integer. If you want stronger typing, you must define your own key code, or enum. Do you want me to show you how to wrap all the keys into a custom enum, class key enum, so that you can type in with key instead of raw int? Let's have a look. So from enum, import enum, int enum, import pygame. Okay, so key in, okay, then inherits from enum. Okay, use it in your event loop. let's have a look. If key presses key dot down. Right, okay. So that will do it, I think. That's verbose. But I guess that might do it. It's almost like I'd have to create an extra, like, little translator module, which I guess nobody does, so you don't have a reference thing. But if you did, yeah. If you've got the event, if you've got a key down, but here you've got, I don't like this because you still have the event.key. You still have to have converted this unknown thing, unextractable thing, into something. So it's almost like I still got that bad line. Oh dear. Everyone who uses Pygame, if you are using Pygame, will just always accept this pattern, and it's like, wow, I can't find a solution to it. Yeah, I literally can't find a solution. So the dot key, basically here. If I didn't want to see this ugly dot key, I'd have to like hide this module in another module and define its like return types. That would be the best that I can do. But like basically, whenever I look at like any of these, so this is, you know, one of the patterns. Let's go back. There's tons of them. This looks just like it equates. I wonder if this one's screen dot field. Event dot get. That would be a screen dot fill. Right. So that's taking this event, but then passing it into a get events function. Or 5. Don't know what get events is defined here. Def get events in this file, line 99. Ah, it's right there. Okay. So that hasn't got an event.key. For eventing events, if event.type is quit, it's got that here, running equals full stop event. So that hasn't got like a key type per se. Let's try another one. Did the user hit a key? So this one's got one. Hacktoberfest 2022. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same. For event in pygame.event.get, did the user press a key? If event dot type is key down, so it's checking if it's pressed the key, and then if it did press the key, what is the escape key? If so, stop the loop. So if event dot key, so it's the same thing. It's using this event dot key. So that's just the pattern. I just think we just kind of got to use it. I just hate it. It's the first time I've come across this, to be fair, in an unfixable way, where like this thing isn't like hinted. I just like the hinting. I like the dot. I just want to get, and then I want to see dict type, and I want to see. I'm expecting to see key in there because it's one of the things, and it's not there, and that annoys me that badly. If anyone knows how to eliminate the event.key, or not eliminate it, but get it to understand what it is, then yeah. Now I could actually post a question in, I wonder. If I post this question in Stack Overflow, I haven't barely ever posted a question in Stack Overflow ever since AI's come along. So Stack Overflow, my rating keeps going up. But it's very funny how my rating goes up when I don't use it anymore. I mean, the question quality's dropped a lot, and the number of questions and so forth. There's massive reasons why you wouldn't use Stack Overflow. But this is one case where, like, I literally can't get the answer. So, maybe it's just a function of Pygame being legacy and old and nobody ever uses it. Pygame event.key return. I'll look at some of these. I know that in Pygame, for the command if event.key equals _r, that when you press a letter on a keyboard, you get a response. But I would like to increase the complexity to a letter number combination for a jukebox. So I tried if event. Okay. Literally no answer. Maybe this is the answer, but I'm going to get some facetious answer. The problem is I'm scared of asking a question or wasting my time asking a question on Stack Overflow, because the AI gives you like a very polite answer with like a great response, and some human being after 3 weeks will just throw an insult at you and tell you that you don't have the code. But I want to ask is I want the event.key to pop down in the IntelliSense, and it doesn't. So I will ask how to expose. What I'll do is how to expose the attributes of pygame.key down, or well, I could have actually just copied the whole lot there. In the VS Code editor. Boom. You need to use type hinting with Pygame event.event. Well, I've tried that, okay, or a more specific type like pygame-event.event. That's the same thing. This allows me to understand this tools in IntelliSense to understand the structure of the event object. Providing auto-completion for attributes like key. I tried this, and this is going to throw an error. That bit there, I'll put the colon in myself. I mean, straight away, it's not taking that. Maybe if I use the walrus operator. Ooh. Why does that put a squiggly underscore here? No. But in any event, event, you know, I tried, you could type in here. That's what I initially tried. But it still doesn't know. It didn't help the event.key is the piece that I wanted to get. So the best I could do is this. This does not work. Boom. The reason VS Code's IntelliSense might not be exposing event.key attribute is that it needs to be able to infer the type of the event object. To fix this and get IntelliSense, the most reliable method is to install a pygame stubs library. This library provides type hints for the type pygame library, which VS Code's default language server Pylance can use for accuracy. Okay. Pip install. After installing this library, VS Code and its Pylance extension will automatically recognize the types returned by the pygame functions. So copy that. So Pylance will correctly infer that each event object in the loop is a pygame event.event. Pygame event.event.event, exposing attributes like key, type, pos, and others. Okay, so that looks like it's the answer. What I was going to do was to stick this in. So I'm not going to go on to this. That would Stack Overflow's dead, kind of. Let's just see that. Leave. Okay. Let's just pygame. How to install pygame? No, so it's not that because we know. Pygo stubs. Some libraries exist in multiple words. We wanted from here was pygame stubs. Boom. Pygame core. Well, pygame stubs doesn't seem to exist. Pygame core. This project has been archived. The maintainers have marked this project as archived. No new releases are expected. Okay. I don't see a pygame stubs anywhere. What is the use of stub files.py in Python? I mean, I can just try installing pygame stubs. I don't know if even Phil will do it because I can't find it in the pip repo. Gives you full control. Right. I shall capitulate. I'll give it a go. The LLMs make things up as well. I'm going to go and give it a try anyway. Nothing to lose, which is this. No. Couldn't I find a version that satisfies? Okay, let's do the pip thing anyway. It's got nothing to do with anything, but let's do that. There's no pygame stubs. Yeah, that's what this error message was. Copy. Nice try, mate. This is a GPT hallucinating. It does hallucinates sometimes. There you go. Pygame. Oh no, it doesn't hallucinate. Maybe it once did exist. The package name Pygame is no longer available on PyPy. This is why you're receiving coordinate code to it. The recommended solution is to install the Pygame Community Edition or PyCE, which includes the necessary type stubs by default. This is a fork of the original Pygame library actively maintained by its former core developers, and it is a standard for modern Pygame objects. Interesting. pygame-ce. Okay. I mean, I'll have a look at that video, but it's probably not worth me looking. No, should I look at a video within a video? That's like an interesting one. What I will do, though, is first of all, just let me bang it in here. I'll bang it in here. Okay. It's probably my I'm gonna say it's possibly my lack of knowledge of Pygame. A menu for Pygame, it's got things, Pygame kits, a wrapper for pygame-ce. Okay, so this is probably possibly my immaturity of Pygame in terms of these other things. Pygame is a free open source crosscut. Several other popular libraries. Pygame Community Edition. It's a fork of the upstream. After impossible challenges prevented them from the fork of the upstream. Pygame. After impossible challenges prevented them from continuing development upstream, new distribution offers more frequent releases, continuous bug fixes and enhancements, and a more democratic governance model. New versions are welcome. Okay. If you want to use features of common. I like to stick with the basics, but maybe this is the reason why. So let's just go and have a look at this example, which is, where was it? Gemini.
As of a bit over a week ago, I was blocked by the Pygame Twitter account, and every single one of my games was deleted from the Pygame website. Originally, I was waiting to see how pygame-ce, which I'll get to in a bit, progressed before recommending.
What happened there? They need to play on YouTube.
As of a bit over a week ago, I was blocked by the Pygame Twitter account, and every single one of my games was deleted from the Pygame website. Originally, I was waiting to see how pygame-ce, which I'll get to in a bit, progressed before recommending it purely based on functionality, but after unwillingly getting caught up in everything, I figured I'd share the background and why all my games were deleted as well. I'll also share why I think that pygame-ce is the better option moving forward, although you can choose whichever fits your needs. Pygame's development has had a problem brewing for a while. One person has control over the GitHub repository, the PyPy package, the website, the old Discord, I'll get to that in a moment, and the Twitter account, but not the subreddit for some reason. A few years back, there was some disagreement as to whether the official Pygame Discord server should be deleted and whether or not the Pygame website should be used to promote political messages. The server got deleted and replaced with a new community-run server, which is the Pygame server we have now. As time passed, the individual who had control over the Pygame website began to frequently take it down, often including the online documentation for Pygame, for a variety of political events so that he could share a message. These weren't just a couple hours of downtime, this would be several days and sometimes weeks. The contributors to Pygame were not consulted about this beforehand, and many of them did not agree with this usage of the website. I'm not too in the weeds when it comes to following the actual contributions, but I've heard that there were many disagreements between the one individual and most of the rest of the community in terms of what types of updates Pygame should even get. There were many unsavory arguments which I won't share, but eventually when Pygame was being updated for Python 3.11, many of the core Pygame developers got blocked by the individual from the Pygame organization on GitHub and were no longer welcome to contribute. In addition to this, they were blocked by the Pygame Twitter account and had all of their projects deleted from the Pygame website. In February of this year, most of the developers were either prevented from contributing, or they had had enough of Pygame's management. So they decided to take advantage of the wonderful nature of open source projects and fork the repository. This is when...
So, I'm actually going to stick it in YouTube so it's in my channels.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking.
Right, there we go.
This is when pygame-ce, or Pygame Community Edition, was created. Its goal is to be a drop-in replacement for Pygame. You just have to uninstall Pygame and do a pip install pygame-ce. It still uses import Pygame and all of the old functionality is still there. However, development is proceeding faster because it has most of Pygame's developers. If you go through the last major release that was primarily before the fork occurred, and look through the list of changes, you'll find that about 74% of the changes were developed by developers who are now working on pygame-ce. Issues aren't the best representation of the scale of contributions, but it gives you a good idea of what's going on. Of the remaining...
So basically, well, I mean, there's politics possibly behind this, but basically, Pygame is shit. That will be the summary. So, okay, I'm going to do this live, if that's the case. I will, going back here, click on that, scroll up a tiny bit. So I'm going to pip install Pygame. Interessant. So I'm going to have to pip uninstall. So I'm going to put this in my comments here. Right. And pip uninstall Pygame. How about that? Right, so boom, and I'm in a virtual environment. You can see that down here. Here, in the virtual environment. So I'm only going to affect the virtual environment. So one advantage of it. Uninstall Pygame. Proceed. Capital Y. Well, actually doesn't matter if you use capital or not. Successfully uninstalled. And then pip install Pygame, the Community Edition. Look at that. It's crying. Right, while it's doing that, I'm just going to go and look at there must be examples of pygame-ce. So I'll go back. Sometimes there's examples. Help, building credits, how to contribute, example subdirectory, source, examples. I'll just click on something. Import Pygame. Looks to be the same. Okay. Back. Well, I didn't even need to go back. Camera.py. Import Pygame. Okay, it looks like it's the same. So I don't think as a user I'll notice any different. I've got the Pygame Community Edition. I don't know if that allows for what I want to do anyway, but it sounds like I wanted to do that anyway. Pygame's recognised. I'll try and run the game. F5. See if the game runs. Looking good. Come on. There we go. Right, that works seamlessly, no differences there. And therefore let's scroll down. Well, I can look for .key. Ah, damn. Event.key still is white, it's not A, so I can't expose the event. Event, well, maybe I can type hint now. Event is of time, type pygame.event.event. Oh, that didn't seem to do much. didn't type, so didn't do anything there. So once installed, the VS Code editor, along with the pygame-ce extension, will automatically recognize auto completion for the I have installed but does not provide you auto completion for event.key. Boom. Don't tell me to understand. This is a common issue if you're using this one. Python's interpreter versus open your project. I know that I got the correct interpreter. Reload the VS Code window. Let me just do a reload, right? Oh no, I'll do a developer reload. Never done that before. Same as closing and opening, obviously. I'd normally close and open, but it's quite cool. It's doing its thing. I'm just waiting for it to do all of its stuff down the bottom here. Right. Okay. Everything's done. All of the colorization's there, but it hasn't. I can see that this is still white, and that being white means that it's not exposed. So that didn't work. Highlands and confirm it is installed. Okay. I'm using the rough editor, but let me just Control Shift X. So Control Shift X, and then search for pylons. I use rough. I don't know if that's true to say. Don't think it'd be in there anyway. Finance report issue. Ooh. I could report something here. Yeah, maybe something to do that. I could report an issue potentially. What's all this? back in my terminal. Type in ls. I wonder what happened. It does do that. Right. So that didn't work in itself either. Print the f string of events dot, and again it's only got these two, the type or the dict. String any. Maybe I should maybe I could extract it from the dict. I use rough and not pylance. There you go. This explains why. Rough is a linter. Okay, fine. So it's not a case of that. Right, okay. Rough is not a language server. I think I do use pylance anyway, but let's just go to, maybe that was some of the options. When that pylance thing, I go to settings. Pylance. Enables for all Python documents. Pylance IntelliSense in other documents, like the terminal or different views. I don't like touching any of these. I use rough because it's used at work. I don't know if I like it or don't like it, but I'm not sure if I like it, to be fair, but it edits the code, it lints the code in a consistent way, whether you like the rules or not. So, I'll accept it, but I'm not the massivest fan, as in rough format a document. It formats it in this way, and you can see like these if statements that would have leaked over a line. So like it's verbosed it in a way. So I'm not massively sure if I like rough or not. Maybe I'll actually remove myself from the rough linting. Is it good? Is it not good? I don't know. Control Z. Oh, it was this piece here. That all got rough linted. I've gone over the line acceptability length of the 78, the 80 characters, but actually rough anyway allows for longer than that. But this one here is just 101. Yeah, it's 101. Is that too much? I don't know. I thought it was 120 that it allowed. Anyway, was it in the update player movements? Rough format document. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's kind of like linted it like that. Anyway, I don't know if you like it or don't like it. This one's gone on here. It's allowed 88 space, 88 characters. So these ones is rolled over the extra like line here. I think it's uglified it, quite frankly. And I'll always think that. Maybe that means I should remove the rough linter. Removed lines. Okay. For now, for what it's worth, I will stick with the linting. I'm just not a massive fan of something like this. But maybe that's my fault. Maybe I should have defined self.player.rect.center as something. Because that is repeating, right? I could have called that R1 and R2 in this function. So I could have said that R1 is that and R2 is that. That would have shortened things. Because that's going to be an R1. R1 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 oh, throwing some errors. Z, 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 Z. And to be consistent, I'll call it RO and R1 anyway. So I think I just missed a bracket somewhere. R0 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 R0. Now these ones are R1 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 R1. And then let's do the rough linting. So, boom, back. That's a little bit nicer. So we're okay with the linter actually. Meant to do control save to save it. That's a bit tidier. Could even have defined mouse pos 0 and mouse pos 1. It's basically like, yeah, you kind of like want your linting to be nice and tidy. You know, that massive like long thing. So that's the if statements now. So I will actually save that. So woo, all the way. Linting and tidying up. Commit. We haven't like done any modifications. All I've done is like basically I'm tidying up at the moment before doing modifications. Sync the changes. So I think that's done. I'm going to go into docs. YouTube live control panel. So I did that before. Docs, chat. Docs, chat. I've got this chat thing, but like bye. Like I can't do anything in this chat, live chat. I can't see anything if this chat is working or not. Anyway, that bit's good. Because I want to chat in my own chat maybe if I want to post something. There is a view stats, docs stats. Live inactive, bit rates, got all of that on there. Live control panel. Now I'll try. Show you password. Oh, it has actually let me do it. Allow, yes, it's me. Right, I'm in on the live chat, I think. To get started, click the button below to select a stream. Right. Hello. I've typed in my own chat. I wonder if someone else can join and type in, but basically I've stuck that in there. So remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Okay. Top fans. Participants, but it's only me. So yeah, I kind of like that's good. Now I guess like it's kind of like things you want to do with the game. So this game's a little bit shitty at the moment, and 5 years old, my attempt at like making a game. We saw games that are better. I quite like this YouTube thing, whether it's disappeared to. I want to watch the end of it, so you can watch with me. DA Fluffy Potato.
26%, most of the contributions were from first-time contributors or contributors that haven't contributed since the update. All that remains in the original Pygame-ce development team is just the occasional new contributor, the guy who has the control of the repository, and a couple others. Pygame-ce has new features, bug fixes, and even some performance improvements. For example, the last update has a 10 to 40% performance boost in the scale transform, which is very common in games that use pixel art like mine. I wrote this benchmark script just
I mean, you've got this performance update is one thing. What's this? Let's have a look. Import Pygame init, screen, time, equals time, fine, is fill, time scale. Okay, blitz, that means drawing on the screen. Okay, start, stops, and he's timing it. Sys exit, okay.
To see the scaling performance for myself, and I experienced a 20% performance boost when scaling a 957 by 626 surface to 3000 by 2000 1000 times. I've also seen a few questions pop up in my Discord server about some bugs in Pygame that turned out to be fixed in CE. But for most people, some of the best parts of CE are the new features. For example, it has frects, which are rects that allow you to use floats instead of just using integers, which makes physical behaviors easier to code. There's also stuff like a new blur transform for surfaces. You can check out the full list of updates on pygame-ce's releases page on GitHub. I'll link it in the description. I was waiting to see which branch of Pygame pulled ahead before recommending anything. Recently I started using pygame-ce on my desktop PC while leaving the old Pygame on my laptop just to test stuff out. I had heard about the performance improvements and other features and decided it was worth a try. For most people it probably doesn't matter which version you use at the moment since it's only been a couple months since the fork, but the benefits are already there if you want them. The changes that have been made in the current trajectory of the development are good enough reasons for me to personally switch. This brings us to Ludum Dare 53, where I decided to jump in at the last minute. I created my newest game, Moonrabbit Collection, which is my first release game using a new framework/engine I made in Pygame. I streamed nearly the whole development here on YouTube, and the day that I released the game was when I got blocked and had all of my projects deleted. Note that this is before I mentioned CE in my time-lapse.
I'm going to subscribe to this dude because he knows a lot, so I'll be able to learn from him.
Since I had said almost nothing about Pygame-ce, and I hadn't interacted with the person in control of the original Pygame repository in a long time, I was likely blocked and had all my games deleted for using CE in Moonrabbit Collection. All of my games, including Moonrabbit Collection, run in both Pygame-ce and the original Pygame. The source code isn't for any specific version, but the Windows build packages with CE. Oddly enough, that means he would have had to have been watching my stream to see me using it, dug through the build files for Moonrabbit Collection since it doesn't show up in the console or the code, or had someone tell him. So this presumably happened just because I used Pygame-ce. This is a complete 180 from how things were 5 years ago when my game Super Potato Bro was shared in a homepage news update on the Pygame website, which just shows how much things have changed. The way that the Pygame website allowed developers to share their Pygame projects was really cool. So in light of all my stuff getting deleted, I'm considering creating a platform for developers to share games, updates, and even get feedback with a game jam type karma system. I've also got some other stuff I'm working on right now, but you may see that pop up in a year or so. Anyways, I've linked Pygame-ce's website repository and Discord server in the description so you can look into it on your own to decide if the switch is right for you. Feel free to use whichever suits your needs. I just figured I'd share my experience with the subject and give you an idea of where things may be heading. Also, it shouldn't have to be said, but please don't go after anyone mentioned in this video. Thanks for watching.
Interesting. Intéressant. Fluffy potato. Half a million views, 10% of those, well, one of them's migrated, that's me. I made games with Python for 10 years. I think I've seen this video. I've watched all of that one. Saying that I haven't seen that video. So I'm probably going to watch some of these videos. Is Pygame slow? Pygame is Python's version of gaming. Like there's much faster things, I'm told, believe, whatever. Too slow for game dev. Streaming in a stream.
Python can be great for developing video games since Python's syntax is beginner-friendly while also allowing for complex logic to be expressed in a small amount of code. This can result in very...
Basically, the syntax is user-friendly because you've got that kind of syntax. To be fair, it's not that much harder than like C++ or Unity or those other things.
allowing for complex logic to be expressed in a small amount of code. This can result in very speedy development in experienced hands. However, Python's well-known downside is its performance. I've always said that Python can be used for nearly any 2D game without much worry as long as you know how to organize data. That said, there are some edge cases, and since I'm someone who designs a game first and worries about implementation later, I appear to have had a run-in with Python's performance limitations in my upcoming Steam game. If you haven't seen my game Yanok before, it's a top-down shooter that originated in a Blackthorn Prod competition where you fight cellular automata instead of typical enemies, which listed on Steam. Cellular automata are algorithms that can create lifelike behavior using simple rule sets to determine the state of a cell based on its neighbors. Yanok started with Conway's Game of Life, which is an extremely simple and popular algorithm that can create some interesting enemy patterns. It performs just fine in Python since each cell just looks at its immediate neighbors. However, some of the more interesting cellular automata need to make decisions based on hundreds of neighbors. Running that in a world with over 10,000 cells, where each cell needs to look at hundreds of other cells without causing a stutter in your game's frame rate, is one of those cases where Python's limitations can start popping out. To set the bar, I plan on using Smooth Life as one of the enemy automata in Yanok. Now, as a seasoned Python game developer, I know I have a few options available to me. First, I could attempt to optimize my code in vanilla Python by either writing some big brain code or by using existing modules that are written in C under the hood for improved performance. In this case, there may be a route with SciPy using convolutions to gather neighboring cell information. However, this kind of solution could end up taking a decent amount of effort while still only being applicable to one cellular automata algorithm. Option number 2 is to either write some C to use with Python or use compiled Python code for increased performance, which could be done with things like PyPy or Numba. Now, option number 3 is to solve the problem by running the algorithm on the GPU. Of course, Python doesn't run on the GPU natively, but there are some tools like Numba that can allow you to write Python functions that will run in parallel on the GPU. These are all potential options to consider if you run into performance limitations yourself, but I only need one solution for Yanok. Cellular automata is typically a highly parallelizable problem, since usually each cell will derive its next state based purely on the old state of the world rather than being intricately connected to neighboring cells. Each cell can be computed separately based on a single world texture input in 2D automata. This applies to Conway's Game of Life, Smooth Life, and even Lenia. Well, wait a minute. We take in a texture and change the state of each pixel based on a single input texture and some constants. That's a shader. The nice thing about solving this problem with a shader in OpenGL, which you can use with Python, is that it is broadly supported on almost any hardware. Interestingly enough, nearly all of the niche cases where interpreted Python is too slow in 2D game dev can be resolved with shaders. Want to paint the world with watercolor effects? Shaders. Want to simulate water surfaces? Shaders. Want to have physically raycasted lighting? Also shaders. I already use shaders all the time in my games nowadays. I have a video on that if you want to learn. So all I really have to do is yoink the Smooth Life algorithm, drop it in a GLSL fragment shader, and poof. I have Smooth Life running in Python. I've also gone ahead and ported the old Conway's Game of Life algorithm from Python into a shader. Each area in Yanok will run a different automata algorithm, and Conway's Game of Life is the algorithm for the first area. There is still one more step in making the Smooth Life Automata compatible for Yana for future areas, downscaling. If you want to see how that works, you'll have to wait for the next Yanok devlog. In the meantime, I've made significant strides towards turning Yanok into a proper game. I've added terrain shadows, proper level editing, for me at least, water, a proper shopping area to expand the world with Gary the Armadillo Blacksmith, centipede pathfinding in physics, secondary weapons, a gun shop, and a new gun that can create walls for defensive purposes. I had a mess of questionable code that was originally written as quick as possible for the Blackthorn Prod competition that needed to be cleaned up to extend the game. With that cleaned up, I am now ready to make even bigger additions as the newly announced release month approaches, November 2024. If Yanok seems interesting, I would greatly appreciate wishlists on Steam. The upcoming tasks focus primarily on new content rather than mechanics such as areas, automata, upgrades, etc., and typical quality of life game features such as menus, settings, and the like. This will be my first Steam game in 5 years, so I'm getting pretty excited. There will probably be a demo and a teaser trailer in a couple of months. Thanks for watching.
Interesting. What are shaders? Unlike a CPU, which performs tasks sequentially, a GPU can run thousands of these tiny programs in parallel, making shaders incredibly efficient for graphics. So it's basically to improve the graphics. Okay, fine, they're fundamental. But the two most important are vertex shaders and fragment shaders. Vertex means are shaders run once for each vertex a point on a 3D model. The range of is to take the position of a vertex in 3D space and translate it. There's always a way in any language, even a slow language, a slow language like Python, to turn it into a fast language. So that's about understanding performance. So let's zoom back out to its regular zoom level. I think, I guess that's going to be the end of this, but really I should say that in this Sky Dodge game, like what do I want to do as like the next thing here? So if I hit F5 to run the game, we'll check it's working anyway. But I force you to not. So here's some help that I would like. Boom! I should have kept that running. What I'll do is, I think I can command and go to C backslash right, and then wonder if I can how would I run this from the virtual environment, from a command prompt that's not in here? I'd have to like launch the virtual environment or something. Python. But I'm actually, is this in that folder? I'm in, what folder am I in? I'm actually in SkyDodge, I think. So, and then I'll do Python, and then SkyDodge 06, boom. Right. I don't normally do that, but it enables me to get to them. Got my crash counter for 10. I'll probably can't help it. Can I get, or who knows how? I will text but that would be quite useful to make it stand in it. Seems like that would. And there we go. Get a video on that. I won't find that. Right. Maybe there's a ring. Maybe change the background. And boom, the game ends. So how to convert Pygame games for web. If somebody knows how to do that and wants to just sort of like collaborate straight away, that might be nice. That's an 11-minute video. Let's go back. Because here's run Pygame in a web browser with pygame mini. That's a 4-minute one. Pygame in the browser with pygame on GitHub. Pygame. So they're all talking about this pygame. It's probably not a video to watch right now. Inside this already 1 hour long video, but yeah, or is it pygame?
Had an interesting call today.
Advert. Hate the adverts.
Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video I decided to go back to some of my slides directly in the browser.
Look, if I wasn't working,
A while ago
I
I made a tutorial showing how amazing the pygame tool is and how relatively simple it is to create games and apps for the web using Python and pygame. In that previous tutorial, I focused on creating a game from scratch to run in the browser. But many people like me want to bring existing projects to the web, so that's what I'm going to focus on today. I will use the pygame documentation as a guide, and I will leave the link in the video description if you want to check it out firsthand. Starting with an easy project, a simple sound synthesizer that doesn't use any external audio files or other assets. All the sounds are generated with NumPy arrays. The first thing we need to do is to ensure the main file is called main.py. I will create a new file here and copy all the content from the previous script. Now I will add the import for async IO, and all the main code, including variable definitions and the game loop, needs to be inside an asynchronous function. To do that, I will use async-def when defining the main function.
Right, okay.
Inside the game loop, I need to await async.io.sleep with 0 as the argument. I will also remove the logic for saving the plate nodes since I don't need it here. Finally, I will call the main function at the end of the file within the async.io.run method.
So that might
To
be the
test
next
it in the
thing
browser,
is
I will run the
migrate my
command
shitty game into a
python/m-pygame with the path to the folder containing the project. After
browser.
running the command, you can access localhost 8000 in the browser to test the program. As we can see here, something didn't go right, as it's stuck on a black screen. To try to understand what's happening, we can use the debug screen by adding #debug to the end of the address and refreshing the page. Here we can see on the last line that the pygame-snd array module wasn't found. To reduce the file size, some pygame modules aren't loaded by default. To use them, we need to import them explicitly. Another thing mentioned in the documentation is to import NumPy first, so I will do that here too. Now we can test in the browser again. And after loading the necessary modules, we encounter a new error. Pygame's mixer wasn't initialized, so I will do that inside the main function. I also forgot to include a comment block at the start of the script with a list of imports that aren't part of the standard library. In my case, it doesn't make much difference, but in future versions, only the libraries listed here will be imported, so I will add NumPy here. Restarting the test, after loading the files on the browser, we finally have our synthesizer running. I still plan to revisit this project, bring in an interface for creating sounds, and maybe use samples. If that's something that you are interested in, stay tuned. So let's move on to the next project, a software-based graphics engine made in Python. I didn't use any hardware acceleration, but to speed up the code I used the Numba library, and that's where the big problem lies. This library isn't compatible with the web, so I will have to remove Numba. Again, I will copy all the code here and place it in a new file named main.py. I will start with the imports block, as before, only adding NumPy. In the imports I need to add pygame-surf-array, remove Numba, and also import async.io. After that, I need to turn the main function into async by adding async before def. I also lowered the resolution here because I know that without Numba it is going to be hard. In the main function inside the game loop, I will add await async.io sleep 0, and then remove the add and jit decorator from Numba. And also call the main function inside async.io.run. Then run the command python/m-pygame with the directory path. And after a while, we have our engine running in the browser. However, with a terrible frame rate, also with some issues in the controls, but that's besides the point. I could try optimizing the logic using NumPy, but I'm not really sure if that will be enough. I think it might be more interesting to use hardware acceleration for a new engine, maybe a future project. Stay tuned. So let's move on to the next project, my famous raycasting game, Dead End. In this one I used several graphical effects like reflections and shadows, which rely heavily on Numba to run at a reasonable frame rate. So let's start by creating the main.py file and copying all the code here. First of all, I will add the imports block at the top of the file and include NumPy. I will add pygame-surf array to the imports, remove number, and remove all the decorators from the functions.
We did this piece before. You're going to put
also I
async.io in there.
To import async.io.
Yeah.
Then add async before
main,
the definition of main.
And await at the end of the main.
And await async.io.sleep inside the game loop. With function, I also need to add async before the definition and await async.io sleep inside the loop. I just forgot to put the main function inside async.io.run. So I will do that here before continuing. Inside the main function, every time I call a splash screen, I need to add await in front of it. This isn't the recommended way to do it because performance deteriorates as you enter a new level within asynchronous functions. A better way would be to create a game state that handles this within the main function itself. Going back to the code adjustments, before testing in the browser, I will lower the game resolution since I already know that the frame rate will be awful. Now testing in the browser, we can see that nothing is happening, so I will check the debug page. The error appearing here is related to an MP3 file that isn't being found. Just to clarify, Pygame isn't compatible with MP3 or WAV files, only OGG. On Linux, Pygame automatically converts files to OGG and replaces them in the script.
Basically,
but apparently something went wrong.
So
I will do it the way
but one potential development is to get the game, the Sky Dodge game, which was curve fitting is quite a serious thing. So I'm probably going to terminate this stream and open up a new stream on, it'll be on curve fitting basically. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, that's it. I'll be watching some of these videos and I want to get the game working in the browser if it's not too difficult. It looked like I had to do an async.io. If I'm using some modules, maybe I have to import for the pygame module and a couple of bits like that. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. That's the end of my little Python foray. I couldn't resolve the event.key. Anyone knows a solution for resolving the event.key? So basically having it pop up in the IntelliSense. So this piece here, having it like auto pop up in the list of methods or attributes in the IntelliSense. I'd love to know the comment that that's the purpose or the question for this thing. So I would post it as a question in the chat, but maybe I'll put it as a question in the description of the screen. But that's what this 1.5 hours is about. But we've learned a few new things, so that's quite good. And yeah, I'll be around in the next video, I guess. That's pretty much it.